You're too available. And you think it makes you good, loyal, reliable. Different? No, it makes you cheap. It makes your time look worthless, your attention look unlimited, your presence look common. The world doesn't reward what's always on the shelf. It rewards what you have to earn, what you have to wait for, what you have to qualify for. Every time you answer instantly, every time you show up with zero resistance, every time you rearrange your life to prove you care, you teach them a silent lesson. You have no higher mission than being accepted, and people don't respect what begs to be chosen. They consume it, they use it, then they forget it. Understand this. Access is a currency. If you give it away, you train everyone around you to treat you like a free sample. They'll take your energy in sips, waste it, spill it, and come back only when they're thirsty again. That's not love. That's convenience wearing a mask. Machiavelli would call it what it is: power lost through generosity without strategy. Dark psychology calls it conditioning. You respond fast, they stop valuing the response. You stay available, they stop fearing your absence. You stay soft, they stop measuring their behavior around you. And the worst part, you start needing their messages, their calls, their approval, because you built your worth on being needed. Tonight, you end that, not with anger, with control. The first move is not to cut people off, it's to cut off the version of you that performs for crumbs. Let them wonder, let them wait, let your silence introduce you before your words do. Because the moment you become less reachable, you become more real. And the moment your presence is no longer guaranteed, your value finally has a price. Value is scarcity, not niceness. You want to know the brutal truth? People don't cherish what they can access anytime they feel bored, lonely, or uncertain. They don't protect what they can replace with a scroll, a call, a distraction. That's why niceness without leverage turns into background noise. You think being constantly present proves your importance. It proves the opposite. It tells them you're standing by, hoping they'll pick you. And the human mind, especially the selfish, the careless, the emotionally lazy, reads that as weakness, not virtue. Machiavelli understood a law most men refuse to accept. Perception is reality in power. If you appear abundant, you are treated as abundant. If your attention is endlessly available, it becomes meaningless, like air. Necessary, yes. Respected, no. Scarcity is what creates value. Not artificial scarcity, real scarcity rooted in standards, priorities, and a life that doesn't revolve around other people's moods. The cold man isn't cold because he's broken. He's cold because he's disciplined. He does not rush to prove himself. He does not chase to be chosen. He lets people reveal what they truly are when they don't have instant access to him. And this is where dark psychology becomes your mirror. The more predictable you are, the less you are desired. Predictability makes you manageable. Manageable makes you exploitable. Exploitable makes you forgettable. You don't have to be cruel. You just have to stop being easy. Stop answering like you've been waiting. Stop showing up like you have nothing better to do. Stop giving premium energy to people who offer you discount behavior. From this moment, you move like a man with options, because a man with options is never desperate, and desperation is the scent predators love. Let your attention be earned. Let your time be qualified. Let your presence be a privilege, not a habit. Because when you stop handing out access, you force people to confront something powerful. Life with you is not guaranteed. The psychology of demand. Your brain is not romantic, it's mechanical. It's a reward system wrapped in excuses. And that's why constant availability destroys your value at the neurological level. What people crave isn't what's guaranteed, it's what's uncertain. The chase is not love, it's dopamine. And dopamine doesn't spike when the reward is predictable. It spikes when the reward is intermittent. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes silence, sometimes presence. That's the dark truth behind obsession. Casinos don't make money because people love losing. They make money because the next pull might pay. The human mind gets addicted to the maybe. So when you respond instantly every time, you remove the maybe, you remove the tension, you remove the hunger. You make yourself emotionally flat, and flat things get stepped on. Understand the game being played on you. When you're always available, you become regulation, a routine, a convenience. They message you when they want a hit of attention, then disappear when they're full. They don't feel guilt because you trained them that your attention is free. You taught them there's no cost. Now flip it. Not with manipulation, with control. You don't punish, you calibrate. You create space so they feel your absence. You delay so they feel the weight of your time. You become slightly unpredictable, not in character, but in access. Your standards stay solid. Your availability becomes selective. This is how demand is created. This is how respect is installed. When you become harder to reach, every interaction becomes sharper, more focused, more valuable. Your presence stops being background music and becomes an event. And when they finally get you, they pay attention because the mind respects what it had to wait for. That's the psychological lever. That's the power you've been giving away. Stop being a service station. You have been living like a service station, open 24/7, always stocked, always smiling, always ready to refill someone else's emptiness. And then you wonder why they drive off without paying, because you trained them to. The moment you become everyone's emotional emergency room, you stop being a man and become a function, a tool, a convenience. People don't fall in love with tools. They use them, wear them down, and replace them. Dark psychology calls this role assignment. You keep showing up as the rescuer, so they keep showing up as the chaotic one. You keep being the listener, so they keep being the taker. You keep being available, so they keep being careless. And you call it loyalty. No, it's self-betrayal with a heroic label. Machiavellian thinking begins when you see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And the world rewards boundaries. The world rewards men who choose, not men who beg. So here is your shift. You are not a therapist. You are not a validation machine. You are not entertainment on demand. You are not a safe place for disrespect to rest. Your time is not a charity. Your attention is not public property. From now on, your presence has requirements. The same way a private room has a key, access to you has standards, and you do not announce them like a needy man seeking applause. You enforce them silently, like a king closing a gate. When someone only comes to you to vent, to complain, to consume, you stop rewarding that behavior with warmth. You don't argue. You don't explain. You simply become less available to low-value interaction. You give people a new lesson. If they want you, they show up with respect, clarity, and consistency. Otherwise, they get distance, not drama, distance. Because distance is the language predators understand. This is how you stop being nice and start being valuable. You don't become cruel. You become scarce on purpose. And scarcity is not a game. It's a declaration that you finally have a life worth protecting. The power of delay. Delay is not laziness, it's a weapon. The instant reply is the behavior of a man who is waiting, hungry, hoping. The controlled reply is the behavior of a man who is building, training, governing. Timing tells the truth about status. When you answer immediately, you communicate that their impulse outranks your priorities. When you pause, you communicate that you decide when you enter the room. That pause creates weight. It forces the other person to feel your absence, to notice your space, to respect your rhythm. Machiavelli would call it command. You don't hand your attention to whoever knocks loudest. Dark psychology calls it reinforcement. People value what isn't guaranteed, and they behave better when access has friction. This is not ghosting. This is calibration. You don't disappear to punish. You delay to filter. Watch what happens when you stop responding on demand. The needy get louder, the entitled get irritated, the manipulators reveal themselves. Good, let them. Silence is a pressure test. It exposes who wanted you and who wanted control over you. And here's the part that makes you dangerous. Delay also protects your emotions. You stop replying from heat. You stop explaining yourself into weakness. You stop negotiating your boundaries in real time. You reply when you are calm, when you are clear, when you are in charge. Your response becomes deliberate, not reactive. Your words land like a decision, not like an apology. You become the man who doesn't get pulled by the hook, because the hook only works when you rush. When you slow down, you see the trap. When you slow down, you choose. That's the difference between a man who is used and a man who is respected. Not to play games, but to set a price. You don't weaponize delay with childish silence. You use it with calm intent. Answer when you can answer clean, not when you are provoked. Let urgency belong to them. Your life does not jump. It moves, always. Train people how to treat you. You don't get respected by explaining your pain. You get respected by shaping consequences. Everyone around you is learning you, studying you, testing you, consciously or not. Every time you tolerate a late reply, a broken promise, a careless joke, an emotional drive-by, you teach them a rule. They can lower the standard and you will still stay. And the mind loves patterns. Dark psychology calls it conditioning. Machiavelli calls it governance. Either way, the result is the same. People treat you exactly as you permit. Here is the discipline. When someone shows respect, give them presence. When they show effort, give them warmth. When they show consistency, give them time. But when they show entitlement, laziness, disrespect, or manipulation, you don't argue. You don't chase closure. You don't clear the air like a man negotiating his dignity. You step back. You answer less. You shorten the conversation. You end the call. You become unavailable to low-value interaction. That distance is not punishment. It's training, because attention is a reward and withdrawal is a boundary. Most men fail here because they enforce rules emotionally. They explode, threaten, beg, then soften. That teaches people your boundaries are negotiable, so you enforce like steel, calm, brief, consistent, a simple line. Not today. That doesn't work for me. We'll talk when it's respectful. Then you move on. No speeches, no essays, no emotional overtime, and watch the reveal. The healthy ones adjust. The users protest. The manipulators guilt trip. Good. Let them show their nature. A boundary is a test they grade themselves on. From now on, you reward what you want repeated, and you starve what you want to disappear. If they disrespect you, they lose access. If they flake, they lose priority. If they play games, they lose intimacy. Not forever, not dramatically, just immediately and cleanly. This is how you train people how to treat you. You make your standards real in action until your presence becomes something they handle carefully because they know it can be removed. And don't confuse this with cruelty. You can be polite and still be unreachable. Your tone stays calm, but your availability becomes selective. You stop rescuing people from the consequences of their behavior. You stop paying for disrespect with patience. Your life becomes the altar, not their moods. Do this long enough and something changes. They stop testing because the gate no longer moves. Replace explaining with standards. Explanations are how weak men negotiate their worth. They think clarity will save them. They think if they just say it perfectly, the other person will finally understand, finally value them, finally behave. No. People understand, they just don't care until there is a cost. And every extra sentence you offer becomes a rope for them to pull. They twist it, they argue details, they demand proof. They turn your boundary into a courtroom where you are forced to defend your own dignity. That's why you must replace explaining with standards. Standards don't debate. Standards don't chase agreement. Standards are simply reality. Machiavelli knew that power is not maintained through persuasion alone, but through a frame that others must adapt to. Dark psychology agrees. The more you over-justify, the more you signal uncertainty, and uncertainty invites challenge. So from now on, your no becomes clean. Your decisions become short. Your time becomes non-negotiable. You stop saying, "I'm sorry, I've just been so busy and I didn't mean to, and you know how it is." You say, "I can't." You stop saying, "Please understand why I need space." You say, "I'm taking space." You stop saying, "I felt disrespected when you..." You say, "That won't work for me." Your words become fewer, but heavier, because you are not trying to be liked in that moment. You are trying to be respected. And respect is built when people see you can walk away without begging them to approve of your walking. Here's the hard part. When you stop explaining, some people will accuse you of changing, cold, ego, attitude. Let them. Those labels are the last tools of someone who benefited from your old softness. Your job is not to comfort their discomfort. Your job is to protect your frame, because a man with standards doesn't ask permission to have them. He enforces them quietly, consistently, without anger, without apology. You also stop oversharing your plans. Stop broadcasting your moves like you owe everyone transparency. Information is power. The more they know, the more they can predict you, manipulate timing, and pull strings. Give less. Reveal later. Speak when necessary. Silence becomes part of your identity. And understand this: the strongest boundaries are not loud boundaries. They are unbreakable ones. The moment you feel the urge to justify is the moment you should simplify. One sentence, then action. Because your standards are not a conversation, they are the door. Either someone meets them or they stay outside. They become harder to reach, easier to respect. Respect does not come from how loudly you demand it. It comes from how naturally you live as if it's already required. And the fastest way to install that reality is simple. Become harder to reach because your life is full, not full of people, full of purpose. Most men try to raise their value by playing scarcity games, vanishing to trigger panic, returning for validation. That's fragile power. The untouchable man doesn't disappear to be chased. He disappears because he is busy building a life that doesn't need anyone's permission. That is the difference between strategy and desperation disguised as strategy. When your days are owned by discipline, training, work, skill, mission, your availability drops without you forcing it. You don't have to pretend you're occupied. You are occupied. And that creates a gravity around you. People feel it. They sense you're not sitting by the phone. They sense you're not waiting to be picked. Your energy becomes expensive because it has a destination. Dark psychology. The mind respects what has momentum. It wants to attach itself to strength. It wants to borrow certainty. And nothing screams certainty like a man who does not rearrange his life for random attention. Machiavelli would call it independence. You are harder to control when you are not dependent on approval. So your move now is to eliminate idle availability. Stop filling empty hours with empty conversations. Stop giving late-night access to people who wouldn't show up for you in daylight. Stop being the man who is always free because he has no standard for his own time. Create a schedule like a fortress. Protect your mornings. Protect your focus. Protect your sleep. Protect your body. Every protected block of time is a message to the world. I have priorities above you. And paradoxically, that's what makes people value you more. Because people don't want what you give away. They want what you guard. Now listen closely. This isn't about becoming antisocial. It's about becoming intentional. When you do show up, you show up fully. When you speak with presence. When you give attention, it feels like a gift. Rare, deliberate, earned. That's why distance creates respect. Not because you're playing hard, but because you're living hard. And when you become the man who is consistently improving, consistently moving, consistently disciplined, you stop chasing connection. Connection starts chasing you because your absence is no longer empty. It's filled with evolution. 1. The untouchable frame. The untouchable frame is not an attitude, it's architecture. It's the way you structure access to your time, your attention, your body, your emotions, your information. So nobody can casually walk in, rearrange your interior, and leave you cleaning the mess. Most men think being untouchable means acting cold in public. Wrong. Real untouchable power is private. It's the quiet system you live by when no one is watching, because the world doesn't get to decide your worth. You decide it. Then you enforce it with behavior. You don't try to be understood, you try to be undeniable. This is where Machiavellian realism becomes your shield. You stop expecting people to treat you well out of goodness, and you start requiring it through standards. And dark psychology becomes your compass. You see how people test, how they probe, how they push for more access, more control, more emotional reactions, more free labor. They'll try to pull you into explanations, arguments, late-night conversations, quick calls, little emergencies that are never your responsibility. The untouchable man doesn't get pulled. He moves by choice. He responds when it serves his frame, not when it serves their impulse. He controls proximity. Not everyone gets the same version of him. Some get distance, some get formality, some get warmth. But nobody gets full access by default. You earn levels, you also control information. You stop broadcasting your plans to people who haven't earned trust. Because information is leverage, and the more they know, the more they can predict you, time you, manipulate you, and feel entitled to you. You become harder to read, not because you're hiding, but because you're not performing. You stop narrating your life to prove you're valuable. You let results speak, and you control emotional access. This is the part that makes you truly dangerous. You stop letting people rent space in your head. You stop allowing disrespect to trigger long speeches. You stop letting guilt pull you back into patterns you already outgrew. When something violates your standard, you don't explode. You don't beg. You don't bargain. You detach calmly. That calm detachment is what terrifies manipulators, because it removes their favorite weapon, your reaction. You become the man whose attention cannot be stolen, whose time cannot be demanded, whose presence cannot be assumed. And when people realize they cannot control you, they either elevate their behavior or they exit. Either outcome is a win, because you're no longer collecting people, you're selecting them. You're no longer auditioning, you're evaluating. You're no longer hoping, you're deciding. This is the untouchable frame. Your life is the center. Your standards are the gate. Your silence is the guard. Your purpose is the wall. And once you build it, you don't threaten anyone with it. You just live inside it. Then watch what happens. They start measuring their words around you. They start respecting your time. They start fearing your absence more than they take your presence for granted. Because your presence is no longer a habit. It's a privilege. Final oath. Remember the beginning. You were too available, too reachable, too open. You thought constant access would secure loyalty, love, respect. But all it secured was familiarity. And familiarity without standards becomes disrespect. Tonight, you close the loop. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. You need a vow, a code, a final decision that rewires how you move through people. Because being untouchable is not a posture. It's a promise you keep to yourself when nobody applauds. From now on, your time has a price. Your attention has a filter. Your presence has a gate. You do not answer from hunger. You answer from control. You do not show up to be chosen. You show up because you chose. You do not chase clarity from people who benefit from confusing you. You do not negotiate with disrespect. You do not explain your boundaries like you're asking permission to exist. You enforce them with calm distance and consistent action. You become the man who can walk away without shaking because your identity doesn't depend on someone else's reaction. That is cold power, not cruelty. Power. The kind of power that makes people reconsider the way they speak to you, the way they treat you, the way they try to use you, and if they can't adjust, they lose access. Simple, clean, final, because you have learned the law. Access creates value, and value disappears when access is free. So you become scarce on purpose, not to manipulate anyone, but to protect yourself. You become disciplined, not dramatic. You become selective, not bitter. You become quiet, not weak. And you build a life so full of purpose that availability becomes rare by default. That is how you stop being consumed and start being respected. That is how you stop being an option and become a standard. Now seal it. Say it in your head like an oath. I do not offer myself to people who haven't earned me. I do not trade my dignity for attention. I do not reward inconsistency with loyalty. I do not beg to be valued. I move like a man whose absence has weight, whose presence has cost, whose life has direction. And when you live this way, something changes. People feel it. They don't always like it, but they respect it. Because deep down, everyone understands hierarchy, everyone understands scarcity, everyone understands consequence. You've simply stopped pretending you don't. Now, I want you to comment this phrase under the video, something you can repeat when temptation tries to drag you back into your old pattern. My presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. Type it exactly like that and pin it in your mind, because that sentence is a boundary in 4 words: privilege, not guarantee. If this hit you where it needed to hit you, make it official. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because from here on, we don't build a life that asks to be respected. We build a life that commands it.